Hey guys, welcome to 3 and Out. You can check out the podcast below in the description. And here's what I need you to do. Make sure you subscribe to the Volumes YouTube channel to stay up to date to everything we're doing here on 3 and Out and the Volume. Let's just fly around some other stuff. I guess it was a little shocking that Derek Stingley went 3 to the Texans, but kind of like Trent Baalke. I like that mindset. Try to hit a home run. Try to draft a star. Like, this is not a draft. There are no guarantees, right? The next pick was Sauce. So I'd rather, if I was the Texans, take a shot. The Jets, like the Texans have so many picks coming up. The Jets need to just be competitive. This is going to be Salah's second year. Joe Douglas now been there 3 years. Like, they just need to kind of get some stuff going here. What else is going on? One thing with the Steelers, they took Kenny Pickett. And I get that you share a stadium with him, so you get to know him. I've heard Kenny Pickett's a great guy, good character guy, which is a big deal with quarterbacks. And I understand that he played in Pittsburgh, which, is a cold weather place, but they don't play in December and January in college football. So he doesn't play in those games. And let's face it, the ACC stinks. It's terrible. And this year, which was his only good year, Clemson, was down for their standards. They were 9-3. Miami, Florida State were a joke. It's not very good. I don't like that pick at all. And I have a hard time seeing Kenny Pickett being a good Steeler. Could be wrong, because historically, they draft well. They know what they're doing. But here's what I would say. They draft position players well. TJ Watt, Juju Smith, Najee Harris. Like, they're good at doing all that stuff. Devin Bush, like they can trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick. They get it. Beside Ben Roethlisberger, they have been drafted quarterbacks now for the last several years. Kevin Colbert, he's whiffed on them all. Dobbs, Tennessee, awful. Mason Rudolph, worse. Kenny Pickett, like I don't see it. And I get it, you need a quarterback, but I hate forcing that. It's why I respect so many teams in this draft. Everyone, how many quarterbacks can go? 3 or 4. How many quarterbacks can go? 1 went. 1. And if Kenny Pickett hadn't gone, I don't know if a quarterback goes. This quarterback draft wasn't bad. It was awful. None of these guys are starters. Hell, Kenny Pickett's not going to beat out Mitch Trubisky. Kenny Pickett's not as talented as Mitch Trubisky. Now, he's probably a little more accurate, but I don't see it. Now, I get it. You feel like you got to do something, but I don't know, man. I don't love that really at all, to be honest with you. Because I think a lot of people thought the Saints, when they traded up, and here's the problem sometimes. You think you're closer than you are. We talk a lot about having self-awareness, having an understanding of where you're at. I would say physically, professionally, in a relationship. Like, it's always good. Sometimes being in denial can help you in life, right? Just keep your head down. You don't want to get distracted. But there comes a time where you just need to face the facts and face reality. Why do the Saints think they're so close? I don't get it. I know I've had some Saints fans DM me like, we were 5-2 with Jameis. Well, yeah, Sean Payton, who was a $15 million coach, now is about to work for Fox. You don't have him anymore. You have Dennis Allen, who I saw Dennis Allen coach for the Raiders. Now, wasn't all his fault. Team was pretty terrible. But to me, Dennis Allen, when I've met him, I've seen him coach, I do not think head coach. And there's nothing wrong with being a number 2 in the NFL. He was making probably $3 million to be the defensive coordinator for the Saints. But they trade with the Eagles. They give him next year's first-round pick. And they end up with Chris Olave. I don't know. I feel Jameis throwing picks trying to throw it at Chris Olave. That's when I close my eyes. That's what I envision. I also think the Lions, who traded, I don't understand Minnesota, 32-12. And they didn't get next year's 1. They got like a 3rd and a 4th. Maybe it was like they swapped second-round picks, and they got a 3rd. I don't quite get why Minnesota didn't get more. Like, that's a pretty long jump, 32-12. And I understand the Lions trying to get really good players, but Jared Goff and Jameson Williams feel a little like oil and water. I don't know if that's a great fit. But Jameson Williams is a really good football player, so I can't hate on them. Like, you ended up getting Hutchinson, who I'm a little nervous. We'll see with the arm length. And Jameson Williams, like, that's a pretty good day. The Ravens just had a very Ravens-like draft. I said this a couple days ago. Drake London would have ran a 4.6, maybe a 4.65. Do you think if Drake London ran a 4.65, he goes 8th overall? I'll tell you, he does not. No chance. That's not the way it works. Google how many wide receivers have ever ran a 4.6 and gone in the top 10. I'll tell you, you don't need to. It doesn't happen. Well, he didn't run, and he ended up going 8. Kyle Hamilton ran twice, ends up going 14. And if I was watching NFL Network, he didn't look happy. And I don't blame him. Because I bet Kyle Hamilton, for the last couple years, thought, I'm one of the best players in the country. And then all season up until he gets hurt for Notre Dame, he's kicking ass, taking names. He's easily one of the best players in the country. He makes week after week, play after play. You're like, I don't know what this is, but this is an NFL stud. This guy is going to be a star in the NFL. And then, because of the draft process, he ran. Because most guys run. And it backfired on him. He did not run fast. And then he fell deeply in 14 for a guy that I thought was, at one point in time, was going to compete to go in the top 5. I thought before, if Kyle Hamilton had ran a 4.48, I think there's a chance where Stingley and Sauce he goes to one of those two spots. He's that good on tape. But he runs slow, and then he ends up going 14. Well, who benefits? The Ravens. And what happens to the Ravens? They get rid of Hollywood Brown, someone that they feel like they've never loved since taking him 25 overall several years ago. And they end up with Kyle freaking Hamilton. To me, the two guys who feel like Ravens or feel like Steelers were Jordan Davis and Kyle Hamilton. And one of them now is on the Ravens. And then the Ravens kind of wheel and deal, and they also end up with a center, the Lindenbaum guy. So, or did they end up? Yeah, the Ravens end up with Tyler Lindenbaum, the center from Iowa. That's just a very Ravens-y draft. End up with a stud safety and a center. High-level stuff. I also thought the Chiefs. Trent McDuffie, to me, the corner from Washington, who is a stud, and he's also a really good guy. And I think one thing the Chiefs have shown that they balance well, and Andy's always done this, because he'll take some flyers on personalities, which you have to. Moose Johnson told me one time when I was hosting a radio show, he used to come on during the football season. He was an excellent guest. And he said the one thing that Jimmy Johnson taught him when he was in Dallas is to build a football team, you need two things. You need players of character, and you need characters that can play. You cannot have a team full of choir boys, but you also can't have a team full of convicts. You got to balance it out. And I think that Andy's always struck the perfect balance. Because you know what? Sometimes the best players are going to have some shit on their resume that you don't love. But you also need to get some high-level guys on the team. And the Chiefs are lucky now. They got Kelsey, Mahomes. They got some high-level guys. Frank Clark's still around. Not an ideal guy. But Trent McDuffie, A-plus character. I would say like A-minus, B-plus player. And Tre'Davious, I can't even think of the guy, Ward, who, Chardavius Ward, who the 49ers signed in free agency, who was a really good player for them. They need a cornerback. And boom, they get the Washington corner. Like, pretty seamless transition to get a good player. And I think they also drafted with the Miami pick that they got from the Tyreek Hill trade, the pass rusher from Purdue, which I be honest, I don't know much about, but I'll give Veach the benefit of the doubt. He's pretty good at knowing talent. But to me, McDuffie, no-brainer pick. That's an easy one. Get a high-level guy, good defensive, plug-and-play starter. One question we have is the Packers. They did not take a wide receiver. Now, unlike when they took Jordan Love and T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, a ton of good players were on the board, a lot of the wide receivers had gone, right? Basically, all the wide receivers, the sweet ones, were off the board by about the Titans pick when they traded with the Eagles, right? Burks, Dotson was gone, Jameson Williams gone, Olave was gone, Wilson was gone, London was gone. How many receivers is that? Like 6? So in theory, we're like, oh, they're going to get one of those guys. They were all off the board. And this is why I said when you traded Davante Adams, which I think it's insane that they traded Davante Adams for pick 22. Ultimately, the Packers drafted Quay Walker. Good player. Starter for Georgia. Stud. But Davante Adams, one of the greatest receivers like we've seen like decades. And they traded him for Quay Walker and a second-round pick. And when you're not drafting really high, you don't control who's going to be on the board unless you want to trade up. And let's face it, that doesn't really feel like Gutekunst style. So he waits to see how everything shakes out. And unlike when he screwed up with the Jordan Love pick and he could have taken Ayuk or Higgins or whatever, there were no sweet wide receivers for him to take. And this is not a draft with like some sweet first-round tight end either. It's a bad tight end draft. So what do? Now, the internet's just crushing them. Think Aaron Rodgers is going to be pissed off. Immediately, I go to the interweb, YouTube, and I see Pat McAfee has 125,000 people watching. I love how the media game's changed. I mean, that's deep down, it's got to hurt a lot of like old school traditionalist. Like he can just get 120,000. I'm like, damn, I even thought like that's a lot of people watching at 8:30 at night, my time. So for him, he lives in Indy. That's 11:30 at night. And I click on, well, Aaron Rodgers is on with him. And I'm like, oh, I'll watch for like 5 minutes, see what he's saying. Aaron was happy. And I think we put thoughts in Aaron's head. One thing Aaron mentioned multiple times is like a majority of the core guys that I've played with over the years and had success with and won with have not been first-round picks. I have faith in that these guys can build the team. Like ultimately, we can nitpick their wide receiver situation, and I'll be honest, it's not great on paper. It's actually a disaster on paper. But part of the reason you pay a guy $50 million is he elevates the group, right? Part of the reason you pay Giannis or Steph Curry or LeBron $45 million is they elevate. Do you know where you get screwed in the NBA? When you pay James Harden $43 million and you get throttled when it matters. When you max out a non-max player in pro sports, especially in basketball and football where there's a salary cap, you're fucked. Well, when I max out Aaron Rodgers, if I put Lazard or MVS over the last 3 years on like Jacksonville or Houston, you wouldn't even know who they are. But I give Pringles and those type guys to Mahomes, to Josh Allens, to Rodgers, to Russell Wilson, they become really good players. So there are going to be guys on that roster that we don't know that will probably be better than you think. And they'll draft a guy surely in the second or third round, a skill guy, and he'll be better than you think. That's part of having Aaron Rodgers. Now, is it risky? Yes. Does it hurt their ability to win a Super Bowl? For sure. But they're going to be good. They're going to make the playoffs. Now, can they, like last year, they were the number 1 overall seed. It was shocking that the 49ers beat them. I thought they were going to win the Super Bowl. I do not view them like that. Now, ultimately, I know Colin talks, does Aaron even care? Is he just cool making $50 million, winning 11 games, and getting knocked out in the first round? Maybe. But I also think, you got to, Aaron's not going to watch every guy in the draft. Of course, Aaron wants a wide receiver. Well, who's available? What do we have to trade? Now, you could argue, should you just operate like the Rams? Should they have traded up and gotten Jameis Williams? Should they have taken both those picks and went up and got Chris Olave or Jameis Williams? You could make that argument. And I could say, yeah, not crazy. And if you gave Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jameis Williams, one of those guys, obviously Jameson has a torn ACL, but he'll be back, so he wouldn't be able to practice with Aaron. So it might be more realistic that Olave or Wilson. Like, should you have done something like that? Maybe. But it's easy to say. It's another thing, well, what if both these guys and they have one of the better defenses in the league? I'm just trying to understand both sides because I think it's so easy for everyone to shit on everyone and just say these guys are village idiots. Like, I'll give Brian Gutekunst credit. I've watched him be a GM now for 3.5 years. He's good. He screwed up on Jordan Love. That was a bad pick. But we've talked about at the time, Aaron Rodgers did not play that well. Brian Gutekunst also hired Matt LaFleur, who's also been good. Like, they know what they're doing. I'm impressed. You're not going to hit on every pick. Did this draft shake out for them? No, it did not. Defensively, it did, but obviously offensively, could they have used one of these guys? Of course they could have. But they were drafting way far down. And I just, now the Packers just, it's just going to be a huge conversation. But watching Aaron with Pat, I don't think he's freaking out like most probably fans are freaking out or people on the internet are freaking out. And honestly, maybe he doesn't care that much. 3 and Out. You can check out the podcast below in the description. And make sure you subscribe right now to the Volumes YouTube channel.